Like I said, I'm joined with the 258 favourites. I've got favourites. And Will Harvey that's trying to duck out the way, and KD. Welcome back. It's always a pleasure to see you two gentlemen, but this is kind of like the reason why 258 is here. Welcome back to Anthony Joshua, Dillian Whyte too.
Thanks for having us.
How are you feeling about your fighter? I know you're gonna keep it brief, but how are you feeling about AJ going into this fight, KD? You know him at the best out of everyone.
Do you know what? He looked really relaxed today. From all the little things that I know in him, he just seemed unfazed. I don't think he told any lies up there. I don't think he's caring about the last fight, the first fight. I just feel like it's a fight. So I can see like where his mind is. I picked up on a few of the things he said, so I can see where we're going with this.
We like it. And then from the business point of view, because obviously you're part of the 258 business, how do you see it when you look at? He's one of your fighters. Yes, he's your boss, but he's also one of your fighters. What do you see when you see him up there, Will?
What do you mean? What do I?
He's aura.
He seems, yeah. He's
like compared to how he was with Usyk. I can use that as an example.
Yeah. Well, I think he's as David says. I think he seemed very cool, calm, and collected. By this point, he's been here so many times before, and he's been in fights that probably, from a profile perspective, even though this sold out in seconds, quite possibly you could argue are bigger fights than this. Do you know what I mean? So he's been here and done this 1,000,001 times. So it's really second nature to him at this point. Nothing really phases him that much, I don't think. And then, from the business side, I think it's great. The response, I'm so delighted that we managed to get this over the line, because this was 100%, I think, the right fight for him to take. And it was the right fight for the fans to have before, hopefully, something special at the end of the year. And it was a lot of toing and froing. It was a bit of a hassle, but I'm just delighted that we finally got it over the line in the end. And actually, I think that's shown with the response in terms of ticket sales. Like, it's gone in under an hour. It's all gone. So what a huge night at the O2 it's going to be. I'm dead excited.
It's really weird that you say that, because, you said this is a fight that he needs. This is a fight that he should have before going into fighting Deontay Wilder. A lot of you know what the fans are like. I'm a boxing fan as well. I keep my ear on the floor. I'm a fan with a mic. And one of the things is people saying, well, why is no one wants to see this fight? No one wants to see him fight Dillian. Why is he fighting him for? Why doesn't he fight? Open Twitter.
Really?
I mean, what I've learned over the years is, see that comment section? It's a small part.
Yeah.
It's a small part of the boxing world. There's so many different divisions. You got your Facebook fan base, you got your Twitter comments, you got your casuals, and let's be honest, it went on sale today, and it sold out. So no one wants to see it, but people want to pay for it. Then we're gonna get at home, and then the numbers will do the numbers. You'll get a fight week, you'll get a build up. I feel like boxing fans are just never happy, and this is what I was saying this the other week about Ben Whittaker. You were complaining about the showmanship and blah, 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 but then no other names that I don't want to put out. You're saying it's a boring fight, it's a sparring session, it's blah, blah, blah. What do you want? Just be happy that the sport is continuing. You're going to take it into the ground. They just
want to hate, basically.
Yeah,
it's just negativity. Whatever you do, you're going to be criticised.
The fighters get paid, though. That's the bottom line. The fighters get paid, the promoters do their job. So really, I don't care about that comment section no more.
No, but that takes learning. That takes learning, because the fighters, and I've seen it with Fraser, particularly with recent events over the last few weeks. Like, if they read those comments, it can affect them. Understandably, it's a perfectly natural response to have. So I think you've got to really learn to understand that these comment sections on Twitter or YouTube or wherever they are is a 0.1% of the overall viewing public.
And listen to you little shits that are doing it, yeah? Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself, man. Because there'll be someone this interview now being like, fucking bag carriers, fucking posh twat, fucking
cheerleaders.
Yeah, cheerleaders, whatever it is. It's just like, people are going to hate regardless of what you do. So do you know what you got? You just got to really try your best to block it out, ignore it. And as we said, the numbers will speak for themselves. So anyone that feels like this is not the fight that the fans want to see, you name me a better fight than this for AJ outside of Fury, Usyk, Wilder, which is not possible at the moment. I can't think of one that is more entertaining, really.
You know what it is? I think that we'll give a lot of people outside of the business the benefit of the doubt, because you don't get it. You don't get the business side of boxing. You don't get the rankings. You don't get who's available, who's nursing injuries behind the scenes. Like, I'll pull out my phone. I'll show you how many people get asked about fights. Just simple questions. It's like, what's your fighter saying? Oh yeah, he's just come back from blah blah blah. He'll be ready by October. Okay, we've got a date in August, so you're off the list. Like, but then I'm not here to do that person's job and say who's available, who's not. There's a system in place, and what you got to remember is these fighters, they're either doing it for their own personal goals, their legacy, to make their money. Let them do what they're doing. We're just trying to deliver the fights that will get you the fights that you want. And no disrespect, there are fights going on that aren't even boxing fights. I'm not even going to get into all the other stuff, but just be happy that something's happening. I've gone a whole little period with no football right now. I can't wait to get the season started. So now that there's fights happening, just be happy.
But I think Dill is like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Dill is probably the highest ranked heavyweight that we could be fighting outside of those top four. Okay, you might say Hrgovic, but let me ask the fans again, who would you rather see, AJ Hrgovic or AJ Dillian? I know for a fact what the answer's going to be.
And then you have to ask yourself, regardless of these people out there saying that they want the fight, I always say it, do you want the fight or do you want the AJ payday? There's two different things, because when it gets offered to you, it seems as if the money's not right because you assumed it was going to be higher. Or, oh, do I really want to do that and mess with my ranking? Because some of these men are getting in their mandatory positions and fighting AJ. Is it worth the money to lose a spot that I might get further down the line? There's a whole part of the game which I don't like, but it's the reality of where we are.
It's good that you're kind of like educating us on that side, because I'll be the first to admit it, we're fickle. All we want to do is see really good fights. We're not getting paid, so we don't care how much the fighters are getting paid, because that's not going to benefit us in any way. Obviously, the big fight that is a really good fight, understandably, Wilder's in the queue, but it's always going to be the British fight for me. It's always going to be Fury, but obviously he's off doing his own thing. But with this fight then, you know, it's kind of like a revival. I like it. I think it's a good fight. AJ with Derek James, them two gelling together. You've known him through camps, with trainers. I have never, and I've just said this to Ade, I've never seen AJ give his trainer so much respect at a top table. I've never heard it. What is it about Derek James?
You know what, with no disrespect to any other trainers, I just think that this is something that just works. You know when you meet someone and it's a vibe. So I think this is just something that's different, that works for him, that he's really enjoying. Like, and I think when he said it, there's no disrespect to the previous trainers. It's just right now he's happy. He's happy where he is. So I don't want to play too much into that comment, but I would, from the other side, be worried that, because what they say, a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter, and I think we've got a happy, relaxed fighter right now. So he's always been dangerous, but a happier fighter, ooh.
Echoing completely what he said, you know what I mean? I think a lot of it is also, at this stage of AJ's career, I don't feel like there's a huge amount of new things that he needs to be taught. It's not like he needs to pick up new tricks. I think he just needs to be in a good headspace and an environment that he's happy training in and he feels motivated in, and that's what Derek seems to be getting out of him, and I think that's where you see the respect come through. Obviously Derek's, you know, he's a legend of the sport already, and he's brought through so many incredible fighters, so there's stuff that he'll be teaching AJ, but I also think a huge part of it is just the environment that he feels happy in and he feels confident in, and that's where we're going to see the best of him, and Derek is going to be getting the best out of him.
We talk about getting fights done, fights that are tricky, fights that are risky. I do believe that this is a tough fight and a risky fight, because theoretically, you can't. I don't think you can warm up for Deontay Wilder, and he could have waited. April till December is not the end of the world, but he was determined. It's almost like he felt like, even though he won last time, it's almost like he still thought he had to do this, because Eddie and Frank Smith were saying, nah, this ain't going to happen. And from behind the scenes, I know that he wanted this fight. Why has he took it?
You know what, in all fairness, this is one of the ones where the fighter got his way completely. There's the business side, there's the route that looks appealing, there's the route that looks safe, there's a route that looks easy, and I think he just said fuck it to all of that and just said, you lot get me this, do what it takes, and that's how it all happened. I think fair play to Dylan for handling it the way he did. I don't really agree with everybody's methods of doing business. Like, I prefer to get it done with behind the scenes, not going on shows, blah, blah, blah. But look, it's got done. AJ's agreed to what he's agreed. Dylan's agreed to what he's agreed. And it's because the fighters want it. This is one that the fighters want. So we tried to do it a few years ago before the Ruiz fight. We had Wembley booked out. The offer was there. I don't think Dylan thought it was a real offer. It was what we thought was financially fair for him, considering AJ had the belts. But right now, there's no belts, there's no nothing, no rematch clauses, just two men that want to have a fight before the end of the year. So there you go.
Not overlooking anybody, but there's, like I said, there is a risk, and it's heavyweight boxing. Nobody can predict it. We can say based on a boxer's ability, etc. But it's on the night, just like AJ said. It depends what happens on the night. You know him better than anybody else. What do you think happens should he lose? And I'm not saying he will. I'm just looking at eventualities.
No. Listen, I'm not even going to let Will answer that. We're not answering those questions because it's not happening. So forget it. He's not losing. He's going to win. Next question, please. Sorry.
Fair.
Yeah, no.
But you know
how I feel with it. You put things out in the air. You start thinking of things. No, it's not happening.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Like,
He's not going to lose.
It's not like it's not happening.
I believe it's an easier fight for him this time around than it was the first time. I think so. Yeah, I believe so.
And what makes you say that?
I think he makes it a lot easier. I think the stage they're at in their career. Do you know what I mean? I think, look, as you quite rightly said just there, on the night anything can happen, and it depends. There's so many variables at play outside of just how good your count's been that can affect how you perform on the night. But I think when you judge Dillian's last couple of performances and how he's looked, I don't believe that he's the same fighter. And people might say that about Anthony, but again, we get to see the work that goes on behind the scenes. We get to look at the last performances he's put on, and okay, he lost the Usyk performances, but I thought he did himself a huge amount of credit with those two performances alone. And then against Jermaine as well, he looked very composed. So I feel like AJ definitely is very much the same fighter that he has always been, and I don't think that Dillian is quite the same. And therefore, I see it being an easier night's work for Josh.
So when you say
you think I'm being controversial there, David, but
no, I think I just share a different opinion. I don't really like to give my opinion on other fighters just from like that standpoint, but I do believe that.
But you agree with me at the same time, yeah?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree on when we look performance-wise. I feel like where I think they've both improved as fighters. I think AJ's improved a lot more drastically than Dylan has. I wasn't impressed with his fight against Fury. I still don't know the reasons to why that fight turned out like that. I wasn't particularly impressed with him fighting Franklin. Compared it to the AJ fight, I think AJ had an easier night with Franklin. Didn't do what they expected him to do, but when you put in comparison the same opponent, blah, 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 I still believe this is somewhat the same thing, because when I look at the first fight, and I know AJ doesn't like looking at the first fight, I think apart from that second round or whatever it was that Dylan had his moment, it was a complete landslide in AJ's favour. And I don't know why we're back here, other than the fact that AJ wants it, because from my side, like I said, Floyd Mayweather said to me, there's no point going back to do these fights. He said that to me years ago. He said, there's no point. He said, there's other fights out there, just keep making them. So I don't know if this has called for it to happen, but AJ wants it, Dylan wants it, so we got it.
And a final question then. This is, when you look on BoxRec and you see scheduled fights,
Yeah.
it's a really weird situation with this, because the fight was always Deontay Wilder in December.
Scheduled?
Yeah. When you look at
yeah.
who is supposed to fight, and now it's this one, it's kind of like we're having a sort of like an interim before that. Like certain fighters, you'll see them scheduled for fight after fight. This is the first time we're kind of like seeing like one fight and then it's the other one's more or less guaranteed.
Yeah.
Business.
Wait, what are you saying?
saying
On BoxRec, it's listed. He's got 2 days.
As in it's going to happen. As in
Oh.
Wilder fights the fight, isn't it?
Right.
But I feel like, look, we've got a great relationship with Skills Challenge,
Yeah.
the guys out in Saudi. I've known about this plan for a very long time. I've known about all the other routes that there are, the contingencies. If this person doesn't win, I've known about this for a very long time. Unlike other teams, because the moment they get told, the public get told. But I've known about all of these plans for a very long time. So I think from our side, we just take every day as it comes in boxing. Because if I tell you from the start of AJ's career, the little variables that have changed, like who would have thought that after winning the British title, our route was the traditional route. It was going to be the European. Remember, we took him around the country after beating Dylan. I think it was David Price and Erkan Tepa were going to fight for the European. And I think Price lost, don't quote me, but then all of a sudden this other guy's got the European belt, and all that opportunity to have a European title in the UK against David Price, there was a little bit of, it didn't happen. So what you got to remember is that nothing goes to plan, and then all of a sudden there's an opportunity for AJ to fight Charles Martin for the IBF. So what I'm saying is that nothing goes to plan, and even why I say this again, like, you lot have to realise my boy's been chasing these titles, you know, because I want to put this out there. Charles Martin, whether he was gifted that title, won it on a Deontay Wilder undercard. Let me tell you this for free. If there was a world title fight on Anthony Joshua's undercard for the same weight that he is, Charles Martin wouldn't have left that arena that night with the belt. If I was Deontay Wilder's team, no, Charles, we're getting that unification going on. But that's what I'm saying, like the way the business works, the little slips and the U-turns that can happen. I don't care about Deontay Wilder in December. Everyone talks about the money. AJ's earned that. It's not about that. We're chasing something, and there's a route to it, and we're doing it his way with Dylan right now. He does want to become a three-time world champion. We know that the Fury fight's there. We'll see what happens with Usyk. We'll see what happens with Deontay Wilder. I don't care about Andy Ruiz personally, because since he lost, he hasn't really done enough to stay in that mix. But anything can happen. The Wilder route's nice to look down the line at. I'd love to see that fight happen, but it can't be like the whole focus point. And Wilder is not the pot at the end of this fight, in my opinion, because both of these men want world titles. So I'm pretty sure they're going to put on a good show, and another opportunity might throw itself in the mix to put yourself right up there. I don't know. So let's see what happens. But yeah, Deontay Wilder, as Eddie says, Saudi Arabia, blah, 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 it's on the cards, isn't it?
It's what's kind of like sold to us. But what I will say, gentlemen, before I let you go, first of all, is thank you for your time, but also thanks for being honest, because I understand that you're in a predicament. You are 258 friends. It's difficult. So I get it. So what I will say is that I appreciate the honesty with this.
Interviews, as you know, so I'm out.
Doesn't look like he does.
No, I like to rant
He
sometimes.
was preaching today, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm on my thing, bro.
It's not long. Hi, and thank you for watching October Red Boxing. Like, subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications. You can also find us on Instagram at October Red Boxing and on Twitter, October Red UK. And remember, at October Red, we stay ready.